please join me in welcoming Mr. Dan Dunlop.
I think giving the introductions is the hardest part of this whole thing. Wouldn't you hate to have to do that job? I would hate it. I can't read a script. I can't memorize a speech. I can't do any of that, but I appreciate it. The other thing I will tell you about myself is I'm really thirsty. And I would like to get to the cocktails. Actually, I'm having dinner and an evening with a good friend of mine who's here tonight, so I'll probably skip the cocktails. So I will raffle off my drink ticket. Yeah. Those who applaud the most and have not left this room at the end, you get my drink ticket. You get to fight over it. I'm going to talk about quickly, I'm going to move quickly because I do want to get to the drinks, but this is the doctor we're dealing with today. They are unhappy, and Dr. Drummond is going to talk about that tomorrow. The job of being a physician is different than it used to be, and there's a lot of unhappiness. Despite that, we still have to do our jobs and engage them. So these people are unhappy. 78% in this particular survey said that medicine is either no longer rewarding or less rewarding. Yet, we've got to engage them. James mentioned doximity. He did about half my presentation during his. He was actually very sensitive not to. But doximity is huge. There are over 350,000 physician members on Doximity. This is an online social network for physicians to go and exchange ideas, get help with the diagnosis, access the latest research. So anybody who tells you that physicians are not using digital technology or social media, they do not get it. 1 out of every 3 physicians in the United States today belongs to one of these physician-only social networks, whether it's Doximity or Sermo or whatever. So they are indeed willing to use social media, especially to talk to other physicians and to learn about things that will help them do their job better. So that's the hook for all of you. It's not just to build a relationship with them. It's to give them information and resources that they value that helps them do their job. And believe me, there are studies after studies about doctors using social media. I'm just going to quickly show you some. I don't want to dwell on it. It is a fact. They are adopting social media gradually. It's not like this charge. But about 1/3 of all physicians use social media today professionally, not just to hang out with their kids on Facebook or whatever. This 2012 study by JMR, which is a medical journal, this was all oncologists. It was phenomenal. Look at this. Of the physicians they surveyed, it was nearly 2,000 physicians, 31% said that social media is a high-quality way to share medical advances and knowledge. So as a professional tool, they thought it was pretty good. It's a good way to get information. It's engaging and it's beneficial. Again, it's not 50%, it's not 80%, but it's getting there. And it's only going to keep going. This is not going away. We can't close our eyes. We can't stick our head in the sand. Look, restricted online communities here, 52% have already adopted them. 5% say they'll never do it. It's fascinating to me that 19% here have adopted Facebook, and 26% said we will never communicate that way. And look, 33% say Twitter. They will never use it. I guarantee you they will use it. That day will come. So, knowing that physicians are moving this way, knowing that all of you have a ton of ground to cover, and I'm a huge advocate for physician relations. I do marketing for hospitals. And when I talk to the marketing department, I say, we need to put more money into physician relations. This is where 60 or 70% of your business is coming from, and you're putting 4% of your budget into it. Does that make sense to any of you? No. That concludes my presentation. Can we go drink? Yeah. It's ridiculous. I don't know why I cannot, it must be me. I cannot convince these people to put the money where, and the resources where it is most important. And communicating with the physician practices, the physician audience, that's the most important audience. But somehow it is neglected, so it drives me crazy. I was working on an article at the time for a healthcare marketing publication about communicating with referring physicians. And I was working on this project for Cooper, and I wanted ideas. Who's doing stuff really novel? This was about 2.5 years ago. You know what I got back? Nothing. but it was all like, oh, we hold CMEs. We do annual cocktail parties for the doctors, you know, all the stuff we've been doing forever. And I wanted novel ideas. I wanted to know what people were doing that was really leading edge, and I didn't get it. So I did what I always do. I wrote something in my blog. I wrote a rant, and I've been on a rant for 2 years about physician relations. And we are in the dark ages, you know, it's just amazing. And we need to step up and move beyond it. It's not your fault. It's our organizations that have not invested in it and aren't thinking clearly. We spend all this time and energy on digital communications to reach consumers, but we don't think about how to reach physicians. So I wrote my rant. It was up here, Most Physician Marketing Still in the Dark Ages. Still on my blog if you want to read it. And it was cool. One of the things I did in that article, in that blog post, was I praised MD Anderson, who was not a client of mine at the time, but was one of the few organizations I found that was really doing some interesting stuff with digital media, targeting physicians and only physicians. That got me excited. So Lyle Green, who's the Associate VP of Physician Relations, made the mistake of commenting on my blog, and he regrets it to this day, I think, because he said, thank you for the comment, and so on. And Lyle and I have been friends ever since. We've spoken, I bet, at 6 conferences together. We've written articles, we've written a book chapter together. And we have been working ever since this moment on what is the future of physician relations. And I think it's a digital future. Not going to get rid of all the other stuff that works. We still need personal contact, we still need relationships, but we have to layer on a digital layer because it's all about making access to our resources, our information, our physicians easy for that referring physician. And digital is a great way to do that. They can do it on their own terms, whenever they want, on their schedule. So Lyle and I have written a bunch of articles. There's Lyle right there. He's handsome. When I was doing this study for Cooper, I looked at leading trends. Beyond what people would tell me on LinkedIn, I went on all the top websites for referring physician programs and physician relations programs. And I looked at MD Anderson, Michigan Health System, Rush. I mean, I looked at dozens and dozens of programs. And I said, who's doing things really well? What do we want to keep that's already out there? What do we want to add to these programs? And some of the things I saw were really having comprehensive online resources, because doctors, as you can see from Doximity and Cerno, like to go online and gather information. And they're going to do it about your programs in your hospital. And if you don't have great information there, you're in trouble. A referring physician web portal, not all of us have it, but when you can have it, it's great. Even if it's just a microsite for referring physicians, I'm in favor of it. The use of video. How many of you use video to introduce your physicians to referring physicians? It's huge. Doctors don't have time to meet doctors anymore, right? They used to meet at the country club. They used to meet at cocktail parties. They don't want to do that anymore. And I hate to tell you, but our whole business here in this room is built on a model of interruption. Am I right? That's not a formula for success, at least not anymore. By going digital, it's not interruption anymore. You're inviting them to come access these resources whenever it works for them, because good marketing, and you all are marketing communication people whether you want to admit it or not, good marketing is about communicating to that audience on their terms, not your terms. We have done physician relations on our terms. We're going to come visit you. We're going to drag a physician along. We're going to bring bagels, you know, whatever it is. But put your docs on video. It's so easy. This is one of my favorite things to do, and if we have time today, I'll play some of the videos we're creating. Experiment with social media, and then I still like the old newsletter. I like a basic newsletter because not everybody wants to read stuff digitally. You can create a newsletter, do it electronically, do it in print form, disseminate it in any of thousands of different ways. So I loved it when I went to MD Anderson's site and saw the little Twitter bird, which now is antiquated. They have a new bird now. But I was very excited about that. They were using Twitter to talk to physicians. I didn't know anybody else at the time who was doing this. They also had something called a paper.ly account. Do any of you know paper.ly? Paper.ly is a service that you tell it what kind of information you want it to sort, but it sorts through your Twitter feed and aggregates tweets for a day, and then sends out a daily newspaper to all your Twitter followers. And what MD Anderson did was it told Paperly, and this is free by the way, it told Paperly, aggregate all the tweets from our faculty. They have about 70 faculty members who tweet. And you can keep up with what their faculty are doing. Now, do you think referring docs might like that? Yeah. They have something like 3,000 followers on Twitter, and those are physician followers. It's huge. I have a Dan Dunlop daily. I love it. And it just goes automatically. Once you've got it set up, you don't have to do anything. It just perpetuates itself. Then they had a Facebook page, which I couldn't believe because, we all think of Facebook as being kind of a social thing, not a business thing. But they have social, and they still have this Facebook page with resources for docs about oncology. Huge. And I don't know how many followers. Does it say how many likes? 4,200 likes. That's pretty good. I mean, to me, it dispelled some of the myths about how you communicate with referring physicians. Okay, look at this. Just take it in for a second. It's like when the lady earlier was saying, listen, just listen. What does he tell you? This is from a real website. This is one of your hospitals, maybe. Do you all ever see on the Find a Physician site where they actually have just an outline of a head? Don't let that happen. That is a sin. Please. But this is real. And he's an OBGYN on top of it. It's shameful. This is what I'm up against. So don't let this happen, please. I noticed I blocked out the name of the hospital to protect the guilty parties. This is no way to market your physicians to consumers or to referring physicians, because your referring physicians are more likely to meet your docs online than they are in person. So when you present them properly, do them justice, give them 45 seconds of video, give them a minute of video, at least give them a nice color photograph. And if they don't show up, I always get this question, people say, oh, well, what if I can't get the doctors there to take their photo? Then don't put them on the physician find. Leave them off until you get a photo. Make that a condition of it. I would, for sure. And look, this is Jean-Pierre Jaja. I love him. He's the chief of cardiology at Signature Healthcare. His secret desire is to become a comedian. I mean, and he's the guy doing a radial stent. But we put stuff in there, Jaja, he enjoys fishing, golf, and has a secret desire to be a comedian. So we don't mind humanizing the doctors. This is really my last slide, the digital future of physician relations. So I'm going to just talk through this without clicking on slides. And then you can go drink. I should say we can go drink. So the digital future of physician relations, where's it going? I mean, you see what we're doing right now is we're integrating social media with a lot of the traditional tools that have worked and will continue to work. I think the future is different though. And we're working with MD Anderson right now to create that digital future. How many of you are liaisons? Raise your hand. I think you're going to be using social media to communicate with your physician practices. At MD Anderson, we're going to be doing it in like 3 days. We're doing a pilot program where we're taking 2 of their liaisons just to start with. We're not going to do it with everybody. We're going to tiptoe or kind of stick our toe in the water and see how it goes. But we're going to be using Twitter first to push out. And by the way, I'm not a fan of being a pusher on social media. We're going to use it, though, to push out and share content that's relevant to referring physicians. And if you think about oncology, there's lots of it there. And in an institution like MD Anderson, they have all these digital resources that they're sharing, or that they have there, that it's hard to find. Even just within their physician relations website, it's hard to know. They have this great information on clinical trials right there on that website. They have a directory of all their physicians with background information and publications from their different physicians. So we want to help direct those referring physicians to the wonderful resources of MD Anderson Cancer Center. So we're going to do that by pushing out information through Twitter. So on Monday morning, they can schedule these basic tweets that share information with physicians, schedule those for the whole week. And then their social media activity for the rest of the week, about half an hour a day, is going to be spent monitoring their account, retweeting stuff from MD Anderson faculty that might be popping up, because they do have a lot of tweeters there, responding to physicians and physician staff who comment or who send them questions or direct messages through Twitter or who retweet their information, thanking it. Daily, they're going to be doing that interactive stuff that makes it real. Because it's kind of disgusting to do social media if all you're doing is pushing and pushing and pushing. It's supposed to be a dialogue and a conversation. And hopefully people are going to be saying, oh, that's not what I wanted, but can you tell me how I can find this? So we're going to be using social media to connect this physician audience with all these resources. And we're going to see how it goes. It's a pilot program, but I really think this is how it's going to go in the future. And I think you're going to start using things like LinkedIn. I think having a LinkedIn group for physicians to come to learn about your organization is a perfect thing because they can ask questions, you can have discussions, and when they follow your LinkedIn group, they get a daily digest of the conversation that's happening there. So it's phenomenal. Again, it's pushing information out without you having to do anything. So my belief is within 2 or 3 years, your role, in order to reach the people you need to reach, cover the amount of territory you need to cover. I mean, think about the Seattle Children's, which he was presenting earlier today. I mean, they're covering Alaska and Montana and Washington State. That's a lot of territory to cover. But think of how much ground you can cover with Twitter. How many of you use Twitter? I noticed there was no Twitter hashtag for this conference. I mean, I think that's an indication of where we are professionally right now. And that's not an indictment of all of you. It's an indictment of physician relations right now. I still think we're in the dark ages and we need to move forward. Because I'll tell you, physicians are moving forward and we need to be there with them. We don't want to be chasing them. We want to be ahead of them. So as they turn to these mediums, we're already there. And we are the one to talk about a competitive advantage. If you're offering them access to this information, you're ahead of the game. And digital is one way to do that. And for the people who don't care about digital, those old physicians, who just aren't there and who are never going to be there, nothing lost. You're still going to communicate with them the same way you always have. So that's it. Go drink. Yeah, who wants my drink this way? Thank you. My general advice first, big broad advice, is when you're dealing with C-suite people who are conservative and who are scared of social media, don't talk about social media, talk about digital media first. Take the social word out. And then the next thing is share with them case studies. Share with them information. Be analytical. Share with them business objectives. Here's what we hope to do. If you approach it like you're writing a small business plan, I'm not talking about 10 pages. I'm talking about a 2-page kind of abstract. But you go in saying, here's the business objective. Here are the tools. Here's the data on what physicians are doing. And I guarantee you they don't know that there's 350,000 physicians on Doximity, for example. If you take that kind of analytic, make it a business thing, because so many people, when they think social media, they think it's their kids tweeting and sharing stuff on Facebook and doing Snapchat. I drive to school with my daughter, and she's like doing all these selfies the whole way to school. But that's really where they think we're, and they think, oh, it's a fad. You aren't going to be able to yell at them. You can't beat them into submission. You've got to be very logical. I think that is the best, the business approach is the way to go. Speak to them on business terms, and I think that will make a difference. Data. Other questions before we go drink? Yes. I'm so glad you asked that question. That's huge. So you're a physician liaison. I'm just saying we all are. Okay, so we're going out to practices. What I think your job is going to become is connecting them to the digital resources of your organization. So when you're there, you're educating them about how they can follow you on Twitter, how they can follow your docs, how many of your physicians are on Twitter. Here's a list of our doctors on Twitter. I mean, it's an education process. And collateral pieces about connecting digitally. And we're going to do this at MD Anderson. It's already in the plan. We're going to have a collateral piece about digital communication and connecting with MD Anderson digitally. We're going to have little cards that we can hand out that have that same information abbreviated. So it's a great question because it's not magically going to happen. And that's why the job of the liaison is so important. among many other things, because you've got to be that connection, and you have to understand social media in order to make that sale, essentially. You have to be able to talk about your doctors who are on Twitter, or your Facebook page that so many physicians are now joining, or whatever that digital thing is that you're talking about. You've got to get it. So I think all of us in this business should be using social media professionally. And I think our institutions need to embrace that. It'll take time. What we've done is with MD Anderson, I went through, and I'm a paid consultant, and I helped develop the main content tweets. And then I put together a list of trusted sources on Twitter that they can retweet. And 99% of them are MD Anderson sources, whether they're departments within the cancer center or faculty within the cancer center. So, and that's pretty easy. If you follow them, retweeting, takes 2 seconds and you're there. But it's a good point. You have to have a commitment to developing the content. And it took me a few hours to do that.
Twitter cancer aren't the personal accounts, it's the system account.
So James is asking about the Twitter accounts. For the physician liaisons at MD Anderson, we've set up special Twitter accounts. We've developed a naming convention that we can use for every one of them as we roll out the program, and hopefully even extend it beyond its current reach. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.